I'll keep this short, pithy, and direct, not unlike the stories made by the sensational comic creator in question. The industry took a brutal blow yesterday when at age 90, the legendary Steve Ditko passed from this world and into comic book immortality. And while he's already being celebrated, rightly might I add, for his co-creation of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and other institutions of the current comic film craze, in my opinion, it was only after Ditko donned his thinking cap, matured as a man and as an artist, and crafted The Question that he truly began to flower into his own, an ideological extension of the morally binary pulp hero The Shadow. Ditko's The Question was less a vigilante than a philosophical force, an objectivist avenger of evil, more preoccupied with the moral turpitudes that drive the downtrodden toward crime than the act itself, consciously calling attention to the innate hypocrisy of more celebrated comic heroes like Batman or Spider-Man, who beat the Jesus out of bitches, send them to the old pokey, only to escape and offend anew, making themselves culpable in the murderous aftermath as a result. In short, he was the first one to opine aloud, wait, if Batman could kill Joker every time he kills an innocent, but deigns not to for limp-wristed relativist reasons, doesn't that make Batman innately complicit in every murder Joker commits thereafter? A threat an entire generation of anti-Thatcher thumbdicks from grey old England, from Moore to Morrison, to fashion entire fucking careers off of, but never once as effectively as the original. In fact, for 40 plus fucking years, comic writers have struggled to square their instinctive idolization of Steve Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man, with his worldview that clashes with their post-60s mescaline-swilling boomer bullshit.
Mr. A is based on Ayn Rand's theory of justice, on Aristotle's law of identity, his definition of man, and his view of art. History tells how men did act, art shows how men could and should act. Art creates a model. An ideal man is a measuring standard. Without a measuring standard, nothing can be identified or judged. A hero measures a man at his best in the worst situation. A hero is a man admired for his qualities or achievements and regarded as an ideal or model. Aristotle formulated the law of identity. A is A. A thing is what it is. It has a specific nature and identity. The truth cannot contradict itself and also be a lie. Mr. A's black and white card symbolizes the law of identity. It identifies the two moral potentials possible, the good and the evil, and by one's chosen action, the best or the worst potential can be actualized. The card is also a symbol of justice. For Ayn Rand, justice is objectively identifying a thing for what it is and treating it accordingly. No one gets the unearned. The innocent is not penalized, the guilty is not rewarded.
From dyed-in-the-dog-shit Democrat Denny O'Neil reworking The Question upon Ditko's departure to be pseudo-mystical hippie horseshit, to a recent Spider-Man issue that took direct aim at Ditko, culminating in one of the cringiest episodes that I encourage you not to allow the BB-fucking-C to live down, a documentary entitled In Search of Steve Ditko, wherein the filmmaker, conscious of the fact that Ditko is the comic industry's answer to Howard Hughes, despite knowing his impassioned embrace of Ayn Rand objectivism, enlists in his absence a gaggle of grating socialistic shitheels to whine about his worldview throughout.
Anybody who'd even committed the merest of crimes was wandering into this poisonous grey area. They were tainted, and they could only expect the kind of terrible punishment that his Mr. A was likely to mete out to them.
You know, Steve Ditko obviously would like me to read these and see the light, and step into the light, and become an objectivist. And instead, I wind up reading them as something closer to classic American outsider art. They move more into sheer, beautiful, wonderful, straight-from-the-heart American barking madness. They don't even pretend to be stories.
Mr. A and The Question were a big influence on the character Rorschach in Alan Moore's classic graphic novel, Watchmen.
And they said, well, it's got this character in called Rorschach. And he said, oh, yes, Rorschach. He's like Mr. A, except he's insane.
Classy fucking shit, Jonathan Ross and Alan Moore, with a thick black underline beneath the word shit, you shills. Hell, even recently, once again, it was a British writer, Al Ewing, who used his Marvel mandate to take a righteous goddamn dump on Ditko's beliefs just a short while before his passing. Can't imagine why he avoided interviews for his entire fucking life, but look, This isn't about the open-air dumpster fire that is Great Britain or its state-subsidized media. This is about the excellence of Steve Ditko. From the outright genius of the Spider-Man pinned beneath the machinery sequence in the early issues, crafted whole cloth by Ditko from thin fucking air, might I add, to The Question, to Doctor Strange, and finally to his more personal political creations, Mr. A and Avenging World. The long shadow of Steve Ditko looms large even today. Perhaps no penciler in comics history since the great Will Eisner has had an impact more omnipresent. More to the point, I implore you, go back, read the original Spider-Man run via the Masterworks collection or otherwise. You will be baffled at how well a Silver Age superhero book still resonates to this day, and Steve Ditko is half of what makes that so. An officer, a gentleman, a genuine genius. Godspeed, Steve Ditko, and rest in peace.